Hey, what's up, everybody? Thank you for downloading this episode of We Got This with Mark and Hal. It's Hal here. This show was recorded live in Philadelphia as part of the Philly Podcast Fest. We were so excited to be there. We were so excited to have a crowd there to experience the show, and we hope you enjoy it. If you do and you haven't done this yet, please go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star rating and a review. Those reviews are important. The more of them we get, the closer we get to actually having We Got This official merchandise available all the time, in addition to that really cool poster that you can find in the Max Fun store. But for now, please enjoy this episode of We Got This with Mark and Hal. Hello, I'm Hal Lublin.
And I'm Mark Gagliardi.
Since the dawn of humanity, one issue has gone unsettled. With the fate of the world in the balance, we're here to settle once and for all. Best 80s cartoon.
That's right. Don't worry, everyone. We got this.
Podcasts should have a theme song. Podcasts should not have a theme song. Yes, they should. No, they shouldn't. They sound good. Yeah, but people are just going to skip past it. You know what? You're right. We got this.
Wow. Wow.
What is up, Philadelphia?
Wow. Unbelievable.
You guys, we are playing in, what's the stadium called where the Eagles play?
Guess.
Veterans Stadium.
Sure. Partially correct.
Did I get that right?
Nope.
Yeah, I heard you
Got it
say
wrong.
Veterans Stadium. Our massive audience of 100,000 is messing with us. Beaver Stadium in Pennsylvania. You know what I have to say about that? Damn. All right. Sorry, that was terrible. We're going to start with a terrible, terrible joke. Hi, Hal.
Hello, Mark.
We're in your hometown.
Welcome home.
Thank
Me.
you. Welcome home,
And
you.
to you. Welcome to my home.
We're staying at Hal's dad's house,
True.
which has the ultimate party basement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where we recorded one of our very early episodes.
Yes, we did.
Down there.
Was Bill a guest on that episode?
No.
That was just you
You
and me?
didn't. I don't think you've ever done an episode with him face to face.
No, we
He's
had him on
always kept
stage
separate.
once with us.
Will you squash that beef? He's in China right now. He couldn't get any further away from you.
He really
when you
is
came to
trying.
the city.
Yeah. And I'm here to squash beef.
Yeah.
And he's not here for beef squashing.
Too bad. You just
Yeah.
got that beef squashed down into a sandwich and covered with cheese.
If I was in LA, yeah, I would be closer to him in China. So, let's
shifting around the globe.
squash some internet beef right now.
All right.
And the internet beef we are here to squash for this episode. Did you get a heads up about what the episode is about?
No.
All right. This episode, we are covering what is the best not all time, one very specific period of time, 1980s cartoon. Yeah. So our topic today was brought to us by
Adam Tomasic.
Adam Tomasic. We were
I'm going to say I got it right.
debating this.
In one shot.
I'm going to say jury's out.
Single shot, correct.
One
Adam,
shot Lublin.
Get your name changed at
That's
the
right.
Pronunciation Bureau.
Is there a
got it wrong.
pronunciation bureau?
There should be.
Sure.
Isn't that movie where they all wore hats and like went through magic doors to different places?
Yes,
with
the
Matt Damon?
pronunciation bureau.
Do you remember that movie? I saw that
No,
movie.
they went through Dwaz.
I saw-
Now that's how you have to say it now.
Of course, I'm joking about the hit movie Adjustment Bureau, which I saw in the theater and still don't know what it's about. I just thought like,
It's the burn notice of movies.
Yeah, are we all done dressing in that one Mad Men suit? Because I feel like that was the film that would have killed it.
Yeah. Well, the Mad Men suit.
hats and suits, and they went through a lot of doors, and that's all I can tell you about it.
So you saw Monsters, Inc.
Yes.
Okay.
And their screams made energy, but then we found out that laughs created even more energy.
Oh, you guys. That's what Monsters, Inc. was about.
Yeah. The laughter was inside us all along.
Oh, I like that. It's not about the dangers of incorporating.
No.
And the monstrosity that is the American business landscape.
That's The Incredibles.
That's Monsters LLC,
There it
sure.
is.
All right,
Yeah.
so we are going to divide this up. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 different categories.
I created categories.
Yes. Hal did the research on this one. Mad shout outs to Kate McManus, our usual researcher, but Hal was apparently like, no, you guys, I got this whole 80s cartoon thing. It's all I did and still do.
Well, it was also more like, hey, it's Tuesday. We should figure out what the topics are going to be for this weekend.
Our show
I'm not going to
weekend.
bother Kate, who has a job and an adult life, by derailing her going, can you give us a list of what cartoons are?
She's like, sure, dum-dums.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. We are Kate McManus's favorite dum-dums.
So, I've divided these up into 4 different categories. Here are the categories. We have, to sell toys only. That's one category.
Well, also to entertain.
All right, sure. Sure, Mark. Yeah. To entertain the money out of your wallet at Toys R Us when it still existed.
Oh,
R.I.P.
shout out to Toys R Us.
And Kitty City.
Wait, what is Kitty
Lionel's
City?
Kitty City turns your frown upside down.
Is this a Philadelphia thing?
Lionel's Kitty City, for those of you who don't know, maybe
Which
it's
is
Eastern Seaboard
nearly all
thing,
of us.
Was a toy chain, maybe a little bit less bougie than your Toys R Us, with a magical kangaroo
Hang on a
as
second.
its mascot.
Toys R Us is bougie now?
It was back in the day.
What kind of toy Ross Dress for Less were you going to? That Toys R Us is the bougie option.
Well, here are the levels. One is like the drugstore, where like all the toys are plastic soldiers, and they were cap guns.
Transmorphers.
Yeah, Transmorphers.
It was all the Mockbusters.
There's that. Then Lionel's Kitty City. Then Toys R Us. And then KB Toys, which was only in malls and like felt like, oh, you pay $2 for that G.I. Joe? Here you pay $5.
It was the
KB.
restoration hardware of toy stores.
It was like if the Nutcracker Ballet opened a toy store and they do not want you in there. It's so small.
Yeah.
It's like the opposite. So, Main Street at Disneyland and Disney World is built so when you enter, it looks large and vast.
Turn.
And when you leave, it looks smaller. Or no, smaller to get in. So it looks like
buildings on the buildings on the entrance side of Main Street are larger than the buildings at the end of Main Street, so Main Street looks longer and the castle looks bigger.
Right, longer going in, so you're excited to go. And then when you leave, it looks like it's further away, so you're like, maybe that's too far, I don't want to stay. KB was like, don't even come in here. I swear there were at least 3 aisles in every KB that were just caged off.
Just a wall of green army men that you had to get through to get into the store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All you could get was Duplo. At any age, Duplo.
Just a whole Duplo store.
I like Lego bunnies that are way too big as much as the next guy, but that's not what I was there for. And I could not get it. And
I feel like Duplo was just hey, you know what a bunny looks like? The curved half of a block. You're like, all right, that's a face. Sure, Duplo. You drew eyes on it.
That's the magic of Lego. Duplo is a Lego company, right?
Yeah, it's baby Legos, right?
Baby Legos.
Isn't that what it is?
Uh-huh.
All right. So our categories are to sell toys,
nutty animals, other.
You really should have made that one last.
We'll sort of go into that one.
This is the first time that other has been in the middle of a list.
We can
like when you go to the DMV and it's like race or ethnicity, Caucasian, other, African American, Asian. You're like, why'd they put other there?
You know what? It's 2018. It's time to move beyond the binary and normalize a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
That's why
a lot of our friends are other.
Because I'm progressive. Some of my best friends.
Why don't we progress with this list?
And then the 4th is based on existing material. Now there are going to be some cartoons that are in one category that maybe could fit into another, and I assigned it based on what I think its primary purpose was.
Right.
So there's some things based on other material that could also have been used to sell toys and were, because there were toy tie-ins, but.
So there are shows with nutty animals on them, but they're really to sell toys.
It was, and some of them are more capitalizing on an existing property. Like you love Star Wars, you'll love these 2 cartoons. Spoiler alert, nobody did. And, they were less about selling the toys, even though there were toys involved.
All right. So what do you want to do? Do you want to do our usual and pick one from each of these categories and bring them into the finals?
I think that's fair.
All right.
Do you want to start with one of the 2 shortest?
Sure. Let's start with other.
Okay.
Yeah. We're leading off with other on this.
This is what I put in other. I get that some of these are based on things that existed before, but too bad.
There's some good ones in here.
Inspector Gadget is in the other category. The Snorks. The Smurfs. Camp Candy. Anybody remember that one?
Everybody got real quiet on Camp Candy.
John Candy, you guys. Everybody was like, what do I do? Yeah, how do I take John Candy and really capitalize on him? Because kids love John Candy.
Sure.
We'll make him the head of a summer camp, and we'll put it at the top of our must-see Saturday mornings.
I feel like any little kid that gets told, you're going to Camp Candy, and they're like, yes! And they get to camp the first day, and they're greeted by the third lead from Splash. And they're like, what is this garbage? Oh man. Camp John Candy.
Well, the two things that kids loved the most
John Candy
were cartoons and the movie Armed and Dangerous. So they finally figured out a way to combine them. So that's Camp Candy. We've also got Galaxy High, which is about there's a nerdy girl and a jock boy.
Neither of whom is going to win.
They went to high school in space. High school in space, Mark.
Sure.
You don't think it's got a legit shot?
No,
Space
it doesn't have a
school?
legit shot. You mentioned Inspector Gadget and the Smurfs in this list
Fair
alone.
enough. Fair enough. And Kid Video. Kid Video.
Kid Video, by the way, kid spelled with 2 D's.
Yeah. That's
like the pirate.
And it's part of a trend, which Galaxy High sort of is as well. But Kid Video is real life kids who get zapped into a cartoon and then spend all their time either trying to escape from that world or a bunch of side quests. It really becomes side quests.
Right. So this
Save
was a green
people.
screen show.
No. It was
The
in
kids
the beginning,
become cartoons.
They become cartoons.
Okay.
Yes, because this is animated, like the Nintendo.
Like the Nintendo one, which
Yeah.
we will get to. Spoiler.
Hold on.
We'll
there is
get
some
there.
yes, this is coming later. There is more Nintendo coming out. There's plenty of Nintendo in here.
Yeah.
So really, this is a 3-horse race.
This is a 3-horse race between Inspector Gadget, the Smurfs, and this is a 2-horse race. The Snorks are not going to beat the Smurfs. The Snorks always felt to me like buying Malto Meal cereal. Like the Snorks were, sure, you can get Cheerios if you want the Smurfs.
Right.
Or you can get Toasted O's, and that's the Snorks.
Can we just talk about the one Snork who had hair, just like a ring of hair? Just because I just want to talk about him because I feel like he had a hard life
Sure.
and he doesn't get any respect under the sea.
No.
Maybe he gets a little bit here, just like, what kind of, sort of looks like Art Garfunkel's dad was a Snork.
Wait, did Art Garfunkel's dad have a snorkel coming out the top of his head?
According to this cartoon that I accepted as canon.
All right.
So, Smurfs, this is the Smurfs or Inspector Gadget.
It's the Smurfs or Inspector Gadget.
Where do you lean? What is your gut reaction?
My gut reaction is that I feel like the Smurfs are culturally and globally more important, and like they're from Scandinavia, right? Is that where they started? France. Thank you. They started in France.
Yeah.
And they're an international phenomenon.
Yes.
But it was Inspector Gadget was so much fun growing up.
Here's the thing about Inspector Gadget.
Go on.
Inspector Gadget is Get Smart.
Yeah.
But if Maxwell Smart had a bunch of gadgets that came out of him.
Yeah. It's the same actor it was Don Adams.
It was Don Adams. It's awesome. He's not the hero of the story. Penny is the hero of that story.
Right. Penny just fixes everything
And
that
her
Inspector
dog
Gadget
Brain.
screws up.
It's the smart. There's a remake. I've not seen it. But I would put like the order of importance is Inspector Gadget, then Penny, then Brain.
Right.
Because I value dogs above people.
Sure.
I don't think people realize now how big the Smurfs were.
Yeah.
Not only was there a cartoon, but I had all of the little rubber figures.
Mm-hmm.
That was you would like collect the Smurfs.
We had growing up, we had the Smurfs. Gina, my sister's in the audience. Hi, Gina. We had the Smurfs, like the little figures. Did we have glasses? What was the other Smurfs thing that we had? It was like, I think it was glasses. Yeah, we had cartoon glasses.
Cartoon glasses.
But the Smurfs were like merch that was just everywhere. I feel like I know more about Smurfs merch than I know about the Smurfs cartoon.
What do you need to know? What can I tell you? Because I am an encyclopedia of all things Smurf.
Really?
We'll find out.
That's a very good question from the audience. How did they reproduce?
Magic.
Sure.
Magic.
You got him wet like Mogwai.
Smurfette was made to be a spy, but then she was turned good by the power of the Smurfs. She had black hair. The blonde was a wig. But then she did a dye job, I guess, because she became a good girl. Papa Smurf turned it blonde.
Papa Smurf turned it blonde.
Thank you.
It is great having a
Yes.
librarian in the audience.
It's so good.
By the way. Yeah, what I remember most about the Smurfs is there was Smurfette, and then there was a sea of boy Smurfs whose names were just an adjective.
Brainy, brawny,
Yeah.
Papa,
Hefty, short.
Vanity, Clockwork.
Yeah. It was just take a deadly sin and then add Smurf to the end of it.
You remember when Morgan Freeman was hunting down
That's
all
right.
those Smurfs?
All I have left to get is pride, Smurf.
What's in the Smurf?
Yeah.
What's in the Smurf? You know, are the Smurfs like a communist society?
Yeah, they're a
where
collective.
everybody has a role and you fill your role and that's it?
Yeah.
And you have your Smurf, you get your dispensation of Smurf berries. Everybody's is the same, except Papa Smurf. He's definitely
He gets
got
a little
like
more.
a vault
Yeah.
where he keeps it from everybody. He wears red.
Yeah. Brainy Smurf is not allowed to work out. Brawny Smurf is not allowed to read.
Now I'm scared.
Yeah.
Now the Smurfs are scaring me.
But I'll tell you one thing that the Smurfs have, that might edge them out over Inspector Gadget.
Azrael.
Is, Azrael and Gargamel.
Yeah.
Because the villain on Inspector Gadget was Claw.
Yes.
And
Who also
he was
had-
a cool villain. You
Yep.
never saw his face.
You saw his hands.
But Gargamel, as villains go, Gargamel is one of those all-time great cartoon villains.
He's very enjoyable. He's
Yeah.
never successful.
No. And as a little kid, watching a cartoon villain get his comeuppance in hilarious ways, you want to see a villain when he gets his comeuppance at least I do, react the way Gargamel does to getting comeuppance every time, and I will be thoroughly satisfied at that villain not getting his way.
And he only has one tooth.
Yeah.
And I feel kind of bad for him because I don't think he was born with one tooth. I think
How many do you think he was born with?
A lot. I think he was born with a lot
full
of teeth.
Guy Smiley mouth of teeth?
I think when he was I think he was a beautiful child with a full set of white pearly teeth. And then because he ate
pearly. I think
white
you said
pearly
burly teeth.
Yeah, big burly teeth.
Big burly teeth. They had that ring of hair.
The kind of teeth you ask to help you move.
Yeah.
I think he was a beautiful child who ate too many Smurf berries and the
Right.
sugar rotted out all of his teeth except for one.
Okay.
And he lost all of his hair.
Yeah.
And
Look,
that's why
I'd be
he's
mad
angry.
at the Smurfs too. It feels like I want it to be Inspector Gadget, but it feels like it's gotta be the Smurfs that come out of this. That's epic all
Yeah,
time.
did Inspector Gadget have an Atari 2600 game that was just his theme song?
All right, coming out of the other category, the Smurfs it is.
That's right.
All right, we have our first finalist. How do you feel about it, 90,000 people? All right. It's a very Smurfy
It's a
choice.
very Smurfy choice.
Hold on a second. That was a good point you just made. That using Smurf as every word thing gets old.
Oh!
It gets very, yes, it was in the movie. Neil Patrick Harris leaned into that.
I thought you were going to say you loved it. I was surprised there.
I mean, I do love most dumb bits. All right, so we have ours from the other category. Let's move on to nutty animals.
Okay.
The choices in here are Shirt Tails.
That's number one.
The very first
on
one.
the list.
Alvin and the Chipmunks. Poor Alvin and the Chipmunks just got booed by the audience.
By 90,000 people.
By 90,000 people just
you
booed
hear it?
Alvin and...
Wow. Brutal.
Foofer. Yeah, nobody knows what Foofer is.
Foofer. People know Foofer.
Yeah, it's not going to be Foofer.
Big blue hound. I think that show was on for 6 months.
Okay, are we...
It wasn't
Say
Blue's Clues.
say
This is
everything that you want to say about
Before
Foofer.
Blue's Clues, everybody, there was Foofer. There you go. See? People know. Of course, the librarian knows who Foofer is.
Right.
All librarians must know Foofer.
Let me ask you guys this. We have a lot of shows on this list. Is that enough about Foofer? Are we
Fine.
done?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay.
I just didn't remember Foofer until I saw the picture, and then it was like, I remembered a murder that happened that I saw when I was a kid, and everything tied together. I was like, oh yeah, Foofer.
You tied it all together Kaiser Soze style on the, on the board. You dropped the Kobayashi cup.
Yeah. And it spelled out, Foofer will not win.
All right. We also have Count Duckula. Everybody just now remembered Count Duckula too. I read this and I was like, oh yeah, Count Duckula.
Yeah.
Of course, the gummy bears. Remind me, where do they bounce?
Here and there and everywhere.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you. Gummy bears versus gargoyles. We had that fight.
We did that one. That's settled.
And the Wuzzles.
Remember the Wuzzles?
The Wuzzles, Gina, you had Bumbleion, right? There was Bumbleion and Rhinoki, who was a Bumbleion, half bumblebee, half lion.
Yeah.
Rhinoki, half rhinoceros, half monkey. All I gotta say is, whatever weird Studio 54 Noah's Ark these animals were all on to create this.
Mean Area 51?
What did I say?
Because you said Studio 54.
No, Studio 54.
Oh, you mean like somebody did a ton of coke?
Like
and
there
then
was a
came up
bunch
with
of
this
weird
idea.
sex parties with animals and it invented all these
I
weird
see.
animals. I know what I said. I said Studio 54.
Is it one of them, half Truman Capote and half Bianca Jagger?
Yeah. Yeah, you remember the Liza offent?
Yeah.
Come on. All right. So, what's going on the short list of nutty animals? I'll tell you right now, I feel like, it's gotta be Gummy Bears and Alvin and the Chipmunks.
I want to throw in for shirt tails. And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
First of all, their shirts carried messages.
So they were a bunch of hipsters.
Yeah. They were a bunch of animals who lived in a park. But like,
okay. They lived in a park and wore ironic
but not
t-shirts
like-
with slogans on them?
not like Jellystone Park, like a Square City block park.
Yeah.
Like, there are 3 trees in this park.
Yeah, I lived
But
in New
also-
York. You're describing Tompkins
Yeah.
Square.
Also, like, yeah, they're in Tompkins Square Park. There's a chimpanzee there who sounds like Humphrey Bogart because there is nothing that kids in the 80s related to more
Yeah.
than Humphrey Bogart.
Yeah.
Like,
It's like they were like, well, we got this Humphrey Bogart character, and somebody went, for God's sake, can we at least make him an animal?
Yeah.
Or, you've written in the script that Humphrey Bogart is a character.
If you're wondering how many of the cartoons were written by old white men, the
Yeah.
answer is all of them.
Whichever one wrote the Humphrey Bogart
Yeah,
cartoon.
exactly. My kid loves African Queen.
How do we make Key Largo into a cartoon? Well, Edward G. Robinson's dead. Can we make him a gibbon? All right. So dumb. Shirt Tails sounds very ironically cool. It's not going to be Shirt
No,
Tails.
oh, well.
What do we think? Alvin and the Chipmunks versus Gummy Bears. Does that seem fair? The
Yeah,
90,000
that's
say
fair.
Gummy Bears, but we have to give this this due diligence. I don't hate Alvin and the Chipmunks. They got a visceral reaction, but I wonder if that's to Alvin and the Chipmunks, the squeakquel. Ugh. Like that kind of what's happened to them lately. Because back in the day, they were just sort of chipmunks doing antics, right?
When did you turn on puns?
When did I turn on puns?
I feel like you used to love puns.
I love puns, but I feel like some puns don't work. Like the squeakquel and A Tale of Two Kitties are not my favorite puns.
Yeah, they're bad.
And they also happen to be the post-colon names of, by the way, post-colon, world's worst cereal. Sorry. The post-colon names of cartoon movies. Alvin and the Chipmunks, though, they go back to the 60s, don't they?
They do.
But the cartoon goes to the
I
80s.
love their Christmas single.
Right.
I don't care. I don't care. You can boo all 90,000 of you can boo all you want. But I love that song because it makes me think,
Yeah.
I'm Jewish. I love that song. So it is passing many tests. But I'll tell you, watching the animated series, I cannot remember a thing about it except that was not a human who should have adopted 3 chipmunks as his sons.
No.
Cause he hated them.
Yeah, Dave.
He could not he wanted a level of order that chipmunks just naturally cannot provide.
If you want to have chipmunks in your home, you probably shouldn't be as fastidious and OCD as him.
Yeah.
Like, did they not, when they had that meeting with the social worker, was the social worker like, you realize these are chipmunks? And Dave's like, yeah, it's fine. As long as they don't let anything out of place in my home, we'll be okay. It's like, okay. Name Dave. Last name? Oh, I don't have a last name.
It's Seville.
Oh, Seville. That's right.
Yes.
That's right. I forgot his last name.
He doesn't
for
have a last
moment.
name. Daddy Dearest.
Oh, No wire hangers ever, Alvin.
Yeah. You know he beat the crap out of Alvin
Yeah.
multiple times.
Yeah.
It did not work.
That's why they called him Daddy Dearest.
Yeah, exactly. I think for the idea that there's implied chipmunk abuse on that show, I mean, I liked Gummy Bears a lot more, and I cannot remember
I was going to
much
ask,
about it other than...
do you know the song?
Yes.
But do you know anything else about the show?
They would drink the juice and bounce all over the place and solve your problems
All
for
of
you.
that is in the song.
Well, it was a good song. It really set up the promise of the show well.
And I know that they handled the secrets of gummy berry juice because
Yeah.
there's a part of the song where they go, the secrets of gummy berry juice.
We were just asked if we remember the names. I remember none of them.
Bumbleion,
Bumbleion,
Rhinoki,
Papa Smurf,
Lysophant.
Brain,
Did you say what?
Brain, David Seville.
Yeah, David Seville.
I remember all of them.
And Optimus Prime.
I'll still pick Gummy Bears though.
All right,
Out of
I'll take
this
Gummy
group,
Bears.
I would take Gummy Bears. And it's still, Disney is,
Disney knows how to do a cartoon, and
Yeah.
we all do still remember the song.
so far we have, Gummy Bears and the
Yeah.
Smurfs.
Some Gummy Bears and the Smurf. If we can get away from adorable little creatures who cause antics, I'll be very happy.
All right. I'll give you a choice, Mark.
Okay.
Would you rather move on to cartoons created to sell toys and sell toys alone, or based on existing material?
I'm going to go with based on existing material
All
because I think the one to beat, I think the
Well,
boss,
let me
the
run it
boss
down.
level is going to
You
be
think
sell
the bo-
toys.
Okay. All right. Here we go. Based on existing material. Muppet Babies. Beetlejuice. Strawberry Shortcake. I know they were specials. It wasn't an animated series. I know there's a
Right.
series now. That series is irrelevant to this discussion. Punky Brewster.
They had a cartoon of Punky Brewster?
Yes. Gilligan's Planet. It's not going to win. We just wanted to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
The Real Ghostbusters.
Which is a hilariously diva name.
Yes.
For a cartoon.
Well,
like,
because
I know
there-
there's movies.
There was another series called Ghostbusters with a giant ape, and they had to buy the rights during the making of the film because they
Okay.
this is when they were filming the right outside, right before they go into the apartment building at the
Right.
very end. And I think Ivan Reitman was on the phone with the studio, and he held the phone up to the crowd chanting Ghostbusters. He was like, "You better buy the name because we're about to film this scene."
Wow.
And they went and got the rights.
That's a crazy
So
story.
the cartoon, what part of that agreement was the cartoon should be called The Real Ghostbusters.
Which I'd like to point out, I know we're still going down the list, but I think
Yes.
it's awesome that Kate McKinnon's character in the new Ghostbusters movie is based on the look of her is based on Egon from the cartoon The Real Ghostbusters.
Yes.
I thought that is the coolest 80s cartoon like shout out homage for a look. I don't know if that was Kate or if that was the producers that did it, but it was awesome.
Yes. Dungeons and Dragons. Star Wars Ewoks.
Star Wars Ewokes.
Star Wars.
They are like Ewoks.
Star Wars Droids. Alf the Animated Tales. Dennis the Menace.
Indifferent.
Defenders of the Earth. Thank you.
Defenders of the Earth. I love this. This is Flash Gordon and the Phantom and a few
Many others.
mid-level superheroes
Yeah, there's a magician.
fighting Ming the Merciless. It feels like, there's an Avengers in the comic books. There's a Justice League. Who's left? Great. We'll make Defenders of the Earth.
We have all these characters.
Yeah.
Who's our super friends?
It's like when Disneyland will do a character breakfast and they'll be like, you can meet real Disney characters. And then you get there for your character breakfast and you're like, what is going on here? It's those two rats from Pinocchio and the bad guy from Basil of Baker Street. Like, what is this breakfast that I'm having right now?
So you say it's a front runner.
Yeah.
Okay. Heathcliff and the Cadillac Cats.
Sure.
This one I threw on here, but I'm going to eliminate it immediately, which is Garfield and Friends, because that's more of a 90s cartoon.
Yeah.
It did start in 88, but it ended in 94.
Sure.
So that's 5 years of the 90s. This is the 90s.
That got famous in the 90s.
Pole Position.
Okay.
Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. The Incredible Hulk, the other half of that syndicated animation block. Star Blazers.
What is that? I'm assuming that's a bunch of
It's
people
based on a Japanese
in
show.
yachting jackets.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just people in khakis with navy blue
spangled
jackets on.
Yeah.
Hello, we're the Star Blazers. By the way, that's way better than their late night sitting by the fire show, Stardigans. Nothing.
That's our show. That's our show.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
The Super Mario Brothers Super Show
Yeah.
and Teen Wolf.
Look, I'm gonna go out on a limb right now and say I can eliminate all but 2 of these.
I know Muppet Babies is one of them.
Yes,
Go
and
ahead.
the reason I can eliminate all but 2 of them is because if you say just the title of the show, the first thing that I think of is not the cartoon for any of these except Muppet Babies and the real Ghostbusters. I realize Ghostbusters is huge, but the real Ghostbusters was Dungeon. The 90,000 are saying Dungeons and Dragons.
I would fight for Dungeons and Dragons. I would also.
But I hear Dungeons and Dragons. I think role-playing game with your friends. I don't think of the cartoon.
But you have to see, like, this is a pretty it was a short-lived cartoon.
Yeah.
I think there are less than 30 episodes, I'm pretty
Great.
sure. But Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, also an important show for a couple reasons. One is Firestar, who was introduced first in that animated series and then spun off into a comic book character.
Okay.
2 is the fact that Aunt May's apartment apparently housed like a full computer command center, and she was so like when you
Aunt May,
she like there are some times in the comics where you're like, all right, it's plausible New York City's got a lot of people. She might not figure out, even though she knows the
not
voice of Peter Parker,
robbed
but
daily?
how do you install all of that? Well, it's because Spider-Man lives with her.
That's true. That's fair. They're like, you guys, okay, on the plus side, she's the most gullible person on earth.
Yeah.
Minus side, Spider-Man lives there.
Yeah, she's like Mrs. Magoo. She has no idea like what's happening in the world around her.
But she keeps
through.
walking onto I-beams
On
as
webs.
the crane is taking it up.
Yeah, like she's about to walk off a bridge, webbing appears, she walks right over it. But it's still
All right, I'll leave.
pretty-
The crowd knows better than me, and you know better than me. Having done the show for a long time, I know that's true.
Do you not remember Pole Position?
Yeah, I remember it as a video game.
The group of people who were like a crime fighting organization, and they had fast cars because of Pole Position.
Man, if I say
All you do
pole
is drive?
position, I either think of the video game or I think of the line in Goonies. What's that, your top score in pole position? That's the only
Yeah.
thing I know about pole
You
position.
should listen to the theme song. It's great.
All right. Is it as good as ours?
No.
Okay, good.
Nothing is. Punky Brewster was also great because it introduced an alien named Glomer because they didn't think that. I don't know what, like, Punky Brewster was a show ostensibly for children, even though it aired in prime time. And
Right.
they were like, let's get an animated version.
Yeah.
But the show was already for kids. So they were like, how do we make it more for kids?
Yeah.
I know.
Add an alien.
An alien.
Get rid of that old Commandant Lassard. Get rid of him.
Yeah, exactly.
bring some kids
He's
in.
not
There's some
in
aliens
it.
in.
They know George Gaines. There was no
Really?
like, Punky, I'm going to the market. And then Glomer shows up and hangs out with him. There's none of that.
I
He was
remember
just gone.
Glomer better than I remember the cartoon.
Yeah.
But it's not, look, we can't say that the Punky Brewster cartoon is the best 1980s cartoon because when you think of Punky Brewster, you don't think of the cartoon. You think of a little kid. Yeah, you think of a little kid inexplicably covered in bandanas sitting on an old man's knee getting advice.
That was my 5th grade shoe style, was directly lifted up of Punky Brewster. I had a pair of red Chucks, a pair of green Chucks, and a pair of purple Chucks.
And you mixed them up?
I mixed those mothers up like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
And I looked great.
Yeah. So what are we holding on to based on the existing
I
material?
don't think it's the real Ghostbusters.
No?
Because I don't like Slimer as a pet. Why is Slimer a ghost?
Yeah.
Working with a group of people whose job it is to capture and store indefinitely all of his ghost friends. Like at one point, he's got to know as a ghost, we'll have gotten rid of all the other ghosts. And then all of a sudden, then that's the episode I want to see where the realization washes over his face that he's the final ghost to bust.
It would be like a dog going, you guys, I got picked up by the pound and I'm going to a family. Mr. and Mrs. Dog Killer. So we've got, it looks like, I feel like, let's talk about Muppet Babies, because I feel like Muppet Babies is going to be the winner that comes out of this block. For me anyway. You listen to the know. People that listen to the show know that we are huge Muppet fans. We've done episodes for and with the Henson Company. I love Muppet everything. But this feels like it stands alone outside of the Muppets. When I hear Muppet Babies and I hear Muppets, I think of them as two separate worlds. Though they both did have that pop culture hook that they had. That was one thing I loved about Muppet Babies is they would play, you would see actual clips from real movies that they would have their comments on, or they would do their parodies of. I know they did their Star Wars parodies were huge.
Yeah, it was Dream On for kids.
Exactly.
Remember Dream On?
I remember
About
Dream
the
On.
book editor.
Was that Brian Benben?
Yeah, if you don't know the HBO series Dream On, it's a show about a guy who lives in New York, and has sex every 30 minutes. Yeah. And all of his thoughts are
Courtney
old
Cox.
films that he's seen. Courtney Cox is in it,
Yeah.
but she's like, plays like a 15-year-old or something. It's very weird. It's not, it's a very 1980s show. Like, you know how it is to be a white man when you're having all this sex. How are you going to manage your life?
All I remember was I had a VHS tape when I was a kid of 6 hours. It was a full marathon of Tales from the Crypt episodes. And I loved Tales from the Crypt, but a Tales from the Crypt episode would end and I'd be like, great, I can get more snacks while the ad for this sex show is on. Then I can come back and watch more Tales from the Crypt. I guess I could have just hit fast forward. But I really wanted in the back of my mind to hear what was going on that sex show while I was getting some more Cheerios or Malty O's or whatever we were getting, whatever Snork's version of cereal we were getting. Do
you remember Alf the Animated Tales or the Alf Animated series where you got to see a lot more of like Melmac?
Sure, because that's what the world needed.
You realize that it like probably wasn't a very enjoyable place to sleep. You understand now why the TV series never really showed much of Melmac at all, because all the other aliens were really boring.
Yeah.
And then some of it was like
Alf was the cool one that got out.
Sometimes it was like Alf is Robin Hood. I think they did that too, where they like put himself in his. It was garbage. It's fine. Yeah. We don't have to talk.
Is
about
it
it
Muppet
anymore.
Babies?
It's Muppet Babies.
It's Muppet Babies.
Yeah.
All right. So far, here's where we are right now. Our 3 out of the 4 finalists. We have the Gummy Bears or Gummy Bears. There's no the. Sorry. It's not Ohio State University. Then we have, is it Smurfs or the Smurfs? Did you type this fast
Smurfs.
or were you being really serious about it? Do you take our show seriously?
I copied and then pasted.
Ooh. All right. Gummy Bears, Smurfs, Muppet Babies. And now here's the big one. This feels like the big one to beat. These are cartoons designed to sell toys. This says only, but that seems a little cynical. So I'm just going to say they're designed to also sell toys.
Only.
And that is Thundercats. G.I. Joe. Transformers. Voltron. Oh, GoBots. I know, right? Poor GoBots. You were the poor man's Transformers. He-Man. She-Ra. All right. My Little Pony. Jem. She's truly outrageous. And the holograms. Pound Puppies. Which is a name, not a command. Captain N, the Game Master. That was the Nintendo cartoon. Popples. They made a cartoon out of Popples. That seems ill-advised. Care Bears, Centurions, Mask. Not the Eric Stoltz movie, right? Okay. The Mighty Power that will save the day. That was you put on the mask. Right. I had some of those as the toys as a kid. And Hulk Hogan's Rockin' Wrestling. Sounds like the 90,000 are super into Thundercats, Voltron, and She-Ra. Slightly smaller, mostly the ladies for She-Ra there at the end.
Since we can't count the crossover that was just asked. All right, here's what I think.
Shout out to Ken Plume, our producer.
There are some shows on here that for one reason or another, couldn't say why, I have a little bit of a bias against. But
it's all the ones that are going to
these are all classic
be contenders.
When you're a child, when I saw G.I. Joe the first time, and I feel like I saw the pilot air for 5 straight days. I would come home from school and I'd watch the pilot over and over and over again for an entire week.
Yeah.
No idea that it was to sell toys, which was the brilliance of these. This was really the start of cartoons as serious marketing. We've created a toy to sell it. We'll either do comic books or we'll do cartoons.
Right.
And it helps describe, for G.I. Joe it was a relaunch. For Transformers it was, how do we make a bunch of kids aware that these Japanese toys exist and explain it in a way where they'll get it immediately when they get the toy.
Also, they want to know how vehicles work.
Sure.
Yeah.
To understand vehicles.
To understand the mechanics of an 18-wheeler.
Yeah. And there are, some of these did a better job than others at establishing a mythology around their characters.
Right.
I think He-Man did a pretty decent job.
He-Man did a great job
of setting up a world around their characters.
Were there characters that were not in the original He-Man toys that the television show made? Because I feel like Orko would never have been a toy.
No, there was an Orko.
But my question is, did the cartoon Orko happen like, here's this comic relief character, and then they were like, well, we have these toys, then we'll add Orko afterwards. That was my question.
Right,
yeah.
Yes. That was
Snarf,
a character similar to Snarf and the Thundercats that was created as comic relief, but later
for the show.
Later they sold that character.
Okay. Hold on a second. James Lipton wrote the theme song to Thundercats.
Late breaking news.
Like James Lipton, what is your favorite curse word? James Lipton?
Can we talk to Mumra? Is Mumra here?
Oh, all right. I'm going to throw a couple. I know you've got your particular things you don't like. I'm going to throw a couple into what I think will be. I'm going to add my list of 3. I'll pick 3 to go to the finals. You pick 3 if they're the same 3 or if they're in any way different. Not to go to the finals, but to do the final part of this. How's that? Make sense?
Sure.
Okay. I'm going to say Thundercats because of the response that it got the first time. Clearly not this time. You're tired of just cheering whenever somebody says the word Thundercats. Or perhaps you are not. I have to say G.I. Joe. You can't talk about 80s toys without talking about G.I. Joe. And I'm going to say Transformers. I feel like those 3 cartoons, and yes, it's tough. Voltron too, but of all of those, I feel like the ones that made the biggest impact are Thundercats, G.I. Joe, and Transformers. Thundercats because they're the most beloved, G.I. Joe because they're the most ubiquitous, and Transformers because they're still making movies with Mark Wahlberg.
Here, I'm going to throw 3 different ones up there, and I'll tell you why. I could pick 3 more that I watched and loved as a child, but as 2
objective answers to subjective questions.
As 2 straight white males sitting up here doing this, I feel like it would be a crime not to pick things that were made for someone who is not me.
Nope, don't care.
So
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding, you guys.
I will pick She-Ra, Princess of Power. I'll pick Gem because I did watch some Gem as a kid and I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like the idea.
She had the star-shaped earrings.
She was a successful businesswoman producer.
She had an awesome band.
And then she had a rockin' band.
And
then there was another band. It was sort of like the evil world of music.
And My Little Pony? Is that your third?
No. I'm sorry. I cannot pick My Little Pony.
Why? My Little Pony is still going strong.
I think it is stronger now than it was then. The toy was a bigger deal than the cartoon was.
Okay.
Now the cartoon has driven a pop culture explosion.
Do you think that Transformers suffers from the same thing?
No,
that it was more about the toy than the cartoon?
No.
Because for me...
No, well, let me give you the third. Let me throw the third out there, which is the Care Bears. Only because I saw 2 of the Care Bears movies in the theater.
Uh-huh.
And neither of them were, it was always
sharing
like,
is caring.
It was like someone's birthday, and I can't, they might as well have been the same movie. So I think it's always the same. Like a bad mood shows up. It turns into like a depression medication commercial, but instead of
That little spinny
dose of-
Zoloft
yeah.
ball that was trying to get up that hill showed up.
Instead of a prescribed and properly dosed medication, these bears just shot lasers out of their bellies until the sadness went away.
Oh, great.
And I think that is both beautiful and a terrible way to teach kids about how to deal with depression. There is no...
Don't worry if you're suffering
Yeah.
from depression. Don't worry about seeking clinical help like it's any other medical malady. A bear will show up and shoot Care Bear
Yeah.
stare out of its belly at you.
If you fire a rainbow hard enough, the sad goes away. That's not true. It's not true. I know it's not true. I know that.
All right. You know what? You make a very valid point. I was coming from personal opinion about these.
I don't, but I would have chosen the same three that you did.
I did pick boy cartoons.
That's why I wanted to pick ones that were not necessarily
I appreciate
aimed directly at our faces.
And
there was a lack of
female representation.
there was a lack of a lot of representation in the 80s.
Sure.
All over the board.
Yeah. There were more half rhino, half monkey than there were any actual like women or ethnicities. You're
Yes.
like, come on, guys. You can't think of other characters. All right. So we've got,
There were so few people of color in G.I. Joe, they had to bring in the refrigerator William Perry.
oh my God.
To add a little bit of diversity to the group.
Oh my
And
God.
meanwhile, Roblox's like, hey, what about me? They're like, Roblox, you sit this one out. We got the fridge.
Oh my God.
That just shows you like
we have
they
a
were-
player from the 1986 Chicago Bears. All right. So who do we have? This is tough. This is a tough one. Thundercats, G.I. Joe, Transformers, She-Ra, Jem, and who was the third? Care Bears.
I'll eliminate the Care Bears for the reason we just talked about.
Because they did not handle depression well?
Yes.
All right.
I think that's a serious issue.
It's as valid a reason as any that we've ever used on this show.
Kids can deal with it too.
Which one
Thundercats
is-
was very inclusive. I mean,
Sure.
Panthero. Yeah.
That is true.
Tigra.
Thundercats was super woke.
Yeah. Was Lion-O like a child who very quickly became an adult cat? And that was like the whole thing was Lion-O like morphed into an adult and like, I'm not ready to lead, but like,
Right.
look at your body. You're ready now. Is it about
Yeah,
puberty?
your body, you know that book, your body's going through changes and now you're a superhero? There's a really underpublished book, you guys. James Lipton wrote the Thundercats theme. I feel like that's a, you know what? That's a good point.
Oh yeah.
Let's talk about the relation. This is a good way to break it down. Let's talk about the relationship of the show to the toy because
Yes.
was
Jesse-
G.I. Joe, I feel, benefits from being not only a toy that everyone knew, but knowing is half the battle. Like everybody knows that phrase. That cartoon was
Right, but that's
ginormous.
openly mocked and derided. It's known more for the memes that grew out of it. We know the phrase,
right.
what it means, and that is true. That phrase lives on. But I think most people who didn't grow up with G.I. Joe would
Right.
know it from like where they redub the videos.
Right.
Like, here's a live wire, kids. Get in my van. Like the weird stuff they kind of do.
I guess were they all like super
they were very lame.
super wholesome Americana?
Yeah.
Like,
You had like barbecue going, don't touch that downed wire.
yeah.
And also,
How often is that going to come up?
Also, what do? I'm the guy who puts out fires. Isn't the whole point to make fires in the enemy's base?
Hi, I'm a pyrotechnics master. Don't do anything that I would do with fire. Knowing is half the battle.
Hey,
Yeah, but I was having fun with my toys. No. Put those away.
hey, you're a stunt man. You want to fight an international crime syndicate? You're Quick Kick.
All right. So so you've eliminated Care Bears. It's, you know what? I'll take Transformers off the list because I think that the toys were cooler than the cartoon.
And because Rodimus Prime sucked.
Who?
Exactly. Keep going.
Rodimus
Keep going.
Prime?
Yeah, Rodimus Prime.
I don't remember
When they were
Rodimus
like, you know
Prime.
what would be really interesting if Optimus Prime died and then we made a Hot Rod the leader and he became Rodimus Prime? Guess what? We didn't like it. By which I mean me, myself, and I. All three of us didn't like it.
Hang on a second.
And
Here's
they
my
brought
question.
back Optimus Prime.
He
He died
minute.
of rust, Mark.
So,
He got rust real bad.
Optimus Prime died.
Yes.
And then they created a character named Rodimus Prime.
Rodimus, Hot Rod.
That to me
Rodimus
seems
Prime.
like if the King of England, Edward I dies, then his son becomes king. Not Edward II. We'll call him Jeff I. Like, shouldn't it be Optimus Secondus? Does that make sense? Like
Optimus-
my name is Optimus I. I died, so this guy's got to take over. He's now this guy the first.
Optimus Secondary.
Yeah, it should be Optimus Secondary.
So we're going to eliminate the Transformers.
Good, just for that.
Yeah.
All right. She's very upset that they kicked. What happened?
Wait, hold on. Come here.
Yeah,
Come over
this is why
here.
this mic exists.
If you're going to talk, we have a microphone up on stage.
For the record, yeah, we put a microphone on the stage for any audience members that got lippy.
But also, we're going to do, we'll allow a brief statement, but no cursing.
No cursing, please.
Podcast for family. All right, she's going back. All right, go ahead and make your case. Say your name for the audience, please.
My name is Nikki.
Hi, Nikki.
Thank you.
Hi. And
was your mother my kindergarten teacher?
wow, yes, in fact, that is the case.
What an odd coincidence. Are you married to one of my best friends who's also here?
I feel like we're doing a Hal Lublin This Is Your Life episode.
Oh my God, that is also the case.
Why am I doing my own This Is Your Life? I do know this voice.
I don't know.
And I'm
I don't know
looking
these
at the
details. I don't
person
pay
who's saying
attention.
it. Go ahead and make your point.
Well, I just also think we should talk about the fact that Starscream was consistently instilling mutiny. Like, what is that teaching children? and they just kept him in the whole time. And I mean, like, here you are, you're Megatron.
Yeah.
You're a gun. This is literally, you're not a car, you're not a plane, you're a gun.
Yeah.
Which, can we also talk about that? That's like,
And a small gun.
right, that's a little distressing.
Yeah.
But yeah. And they just kept him as part of the bad guys. Like, no, we're not going to kick you out or anything. We're just going to keep you here on a weekly basis to instill mutiny.
All
Good
right.
point.
Well,
Good
thank
point. Thank
you for that.
Thank you for that.
And yeah, to that, it is odd, like the idea of a criminal element being like, okay, one of us ratted everyone out to the cops last time. We know it was you, Hal, but you're still part of this team. Like, what is wrong with this crime syndicate? Sure. You can't have the bad guys win.
Especially he was the only one knowing he was the only one who knew how bad they were at being villains.
This is
That
tough,
nothing was gonna
man.
work.
This is the toughest category, I
I'm
think.
okay taking Thundercats. I am okay. Because I did not like the toys, especially those dumb switches on the back which would break.
You were getting rid of Thundercats.
Yeah, no, I'm okay taking it because the cartoon is vastly
The
better
cartoon
than
is
the toy.
superior.
I think that is
to
a good
All right, we
point
have another
to
comment
take in.
coming up to the microphone right now.
Oh, somebody's
Please,
coming up.
please say your name.
Go ahead.
Hold up. I'm talking to the microphone. My name is Kevin, and I actually have a point of
Hi,
order.
Kevin.
But
Point
it's
of
fine.
order?
It's in favor of Thundercats. So you mentioned earlier that a lot of these shows were very sort of thinly disguised commercials.
Yes.
No, they were literally commercials.
True.
Up until the 1980s, it was federal law that it was illegal to have a television series geared towards selling a product.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a law that got repealed under the Reagan administration under the guise of deregulating any number of markets.
Right.
So that's why we've got this boom of television series in the 80s that were literally commercials.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Thundercats is the only one of those where you remember it was made to be a commercial, but you remember the commercial as opposed to remembering the toys because the toys were terrible.
Yes.
Right.
And the show was great. Thundercats.
That's a very good point.
Fair enough.
First of all, I love that we were about to rule that Thundercats won, but you had to jump down here
And here's why.
and plead your case.
One more, and then we're closing the mic.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, if Thundercats already won, I guess I'd appear to say +1. I don't know. I think it was just such a better show because I remember as a kid reading an article where they talked about the fact that they were going to have one of the first characters with disabilities on it, and that was Linkso when they brought in the other Thunderians that made it to Third Earth, and he was blind, and like it was kind of a BFD at that point. And I remember it having, the animation was great because much like Star Blazers, it was Japanese animation that was coming over through Rankin Bass.
Yeah.
And it was gorgeous. There was like a mythology. I remember really wanting to know about those stories and then listen to the music and everything. And then I got a Thunder Tank for Christmas and the treads broke every damn time. So the toys were objectively terrible.
All right.
Made very poorly. But we can also sing the theme song, also James Lipton, as was brought up.
Look, I am
Thank you.
super down for having the Thundercats be our choice from this category.
Okay.
With apologies to to some of the other cartoons in here that are all wonderful. That's the problem with this show.
Sorry, the Popples.
As a kid that grew up in the 80s, I feel like we're killing our babies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean with a lot of these. But yeah, so we'll say we have our final four, and you and I are going to go through, or are we going to eliminate them?
Do you want to remind everybody what the finalists
Here are
are?
what the final four are. We have Thundercats, Gummy Bears, the Smurfs, and Muppet Babies. Those are our final four. Do you want to eliminate first? You want me to eliminate?
Sure, I'll eliminate the Gummy Bears.
Great.
They're just not, they certainly had an easier ride to the finals. There wasn't a lot in that category, which doesn't discount that it's a very enjoyable show, but it just doesn't measure up to the other three. All the other Disney afternoon stuff.
For those who can't
Darkwing,
hear our audience of 90,000.
If you want Darkwing Duck,
Yes.
Rescue Rangers, Tailspin, that's all 90s.
That's
That is
all 1990s.
Batman the Animated Series, also 90s.
Sure. Which would probably win.
There
hands
will
down.
be a 90s episode that will probably
We'll
be
do it.
Batman versus X-Men. I'm going to call that now.
So you've eliminated Gummy Bears.
Mhm.
Shout out to those in French or in France, and may I say in French, pardon, but we're getting rid of the Smurfs. We're going with our final two choices: the Muppet Babies or the Thundercats. This is tough. I was more of a Muppet Babies fan as a kid. I loved the Muppet Babies, but we have to do this objectively.
Here's why I would say Thundercats.
We're being objective here.
I feel like the Muppet Babies, as enjoyable as they are not the perfect form of the Muppets. You can get way better bang for your buck Muppet-wise. Even for kids watching any of their holiday specials, watching any of their films, watching 3 seasons of the Muppet Show.
Right.
The Muppet Babies, for me, is a less than form of the Muppets.
Mm-hmm.
I still enjoyed it. I watched it. It was great. They've announced it's coming back, which I'm sure will also be great. I know people who are working on it. They are supremely talented. It's going to be like, I'm excited that a new generation it's a good into the Muppets, because there's not a lot of live action happening right now. So that is good, but it's just because it's the imperfect form of a perfect thing.
Yeah.
I would take the Thundercats, which was something made to sell a toy that is better than the toy it was made to sell. And that is why it endures and people still remember it, and why there are you get more comics and cartoon memories of Thundercats than you do the toys. And I think that's why it is an enduring series. It endures as a property rather than as a piece of merchandise.
Well, before you issue our ruling, if I may very briefly, to our crowd of 90,000, just throw this out there. Thundercats!
People of the world, you heard it. What do you like? What do you like? A little lion that becomes a big muscular lion? Check. Do you like a dead person that becomes a big muscular dead person? Check again. What do you like? A big bald leather daddy with whips and nunchucks? Do you like that? Do you like, what if cats had their own pet cat that could only say its own name? What if? Guess what? You don't have to wonder, because all of those things happen in one animated series. And good luck. You could try to find the toys on eBay, but I'm sure they've all turned to dust by now because they were so poorly built. The greatest animated show from the 1980s is the Thundercats. Asked and answered.
Thanks to Adam Tomasic for the suggestion.
Yes.
This topic is covered, but we have many more topics to discuss. So please, reach out to us on Twitter at We Got This Tweets, or check out the Maximum Fun subreddit, or
email us at wegotThisPodcast@gmail.com, or go to our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/We Got This Podcast. Tell us what you think we got right, what you think we got wrong, and we will ignore it and continue to live our best lives. As you should too, but it's a great place to get together and discuss these things. I love seeing the conversation happening there. Thank you to producer Ken Plume, researcher Kate McManus, who we gave the night off for this one, graphic designer Uri Kelman, QA engineer Jen Alba. Thank you to Nathan and Tegan and everybody at the Philly Podcast Festival for having us. Andrew and Daniela in the booth. Everybody here at the Philly Improv Theater for hosting us. We really appreciate it.
absolutely. And thanks to our musicians, Jonathan Dinerstein and Mike Furman, for our score and theme song, respectively. And thanks to you, our crowd of 90,000 here at beautiful Veterans Arena.
Wow.
Thank you for listening to the show.
Did it get worse? Did it get worse? Name one. You drove past all three of these buildings last night on the way back to the airport. Can you name one?
I'm thanking our fans.
Can you name one?
Yeah. The Eagle Dome. The Eagle Center.
By the way,
The Philly Dome.
when we were flying out,
Philadelphia.
just very quickly, this is a true story that happened. As we were getting ready to leave, you met me at the airport, and
Yeah.
I was at a lounge getting breakfast, and somebody came up to me and said, "Do you know the fight song?" And I was wearing a Welcome to Night Vale Philly Adventure Hour t-shirt, and I was very quickly trying to think what
greets
yeah.
America?
I thought that's what I was like, what song is he possibly referring to? This is an older gentleman in a shirt and tie. And then I realized I was wearing an Eagles hat, and we sang the Eagles fight song, making intense eye contact with one another. Neither of us blinked. And then we finished it, high-fived, and walked away from one another.
Yeah.
Yeah, he and I.
You are Philly married.
He
to
and
that
I
guy.
are now married.
But thank you to our crowd here, in Philadelphia at the Philadelphia Improv Theater, part of the, Philadelphia Podcast Festival. And thanks to you who are listening at home or in your car or wherever you listen to the show. We appreciate you. We thank you. You give us an opportunity every week to talk to one another about the important things, and we thank you for it. For Hal Lublin, I'm Mark Gagliardi.
For Mark Gagliardi, I'm Hal Lublin. And don't worry, everybody. We got this.
We got this.
This is Mirror Universe Adam Pranica here to tell you not to listen to The Greatest Discovery on MaximumFun.org.
This is Mirror Universe Ben Harrison uncharacteristically agreeing with you despite the fact that you are my enemy.
The one thing that you must never do is enjoy our bit of off-season Star Trek Discovery programming, where we talk about the first season of Star Trek Discovery while at the same time unpacking news and information about the upcoming Season 2. So do not tune in and download The Greatest Discovery on MaximumFun.org or wherever you get your podcasts.
And rate it 1 star on Apple Podcasts.
The Dead Pilot Society podcast brings you hilarious comedy pilots that were never made, featuring actors like Aubrey Plaza, Andy Richter, Paul F. Tompkins, John Hodgman, Adam Scott, Molly Shannon, Busy Phillips, Tom Lennon, Anna Camp, Laurie Metcalf, Felicia Day, Michael Ian Black, Adam Savage, Paul Scheer, Ben Schwartz, Skylar Aston, Mae Whitman, Josh Molina, Ben Feldman, Nicole Byer, Jason Ritter, Sarah Chalk, Steve Agee, Jane Levy, Allison Tolman, Danielle Nicolette, Casey Wilson, Anna Ortiz, Lorraine Newman, June Diane Raphael, Kieran Chipka, Ed Week, Zach Knight, and Carrie Kenny Silver, John Ross Bowie, Jamie Denbo, Janet Varney, Alessandra Torres, Summer, Ellen Ross, Matt Gorley, and many more. Listen at MaximumFun.org, iTunes, or wherever you download podcasts.
MaximumFun.org.
Comedy and culture.
Artist owned.
Listener supported.